guys, it's me again, Dr. Katz. Here's the next step in our latest series of recorded blogs. This one is called You Can Never Be Too Alan. So, with the launch of HBO Max the other day, my world was rocked to discover that Friends had jumped ship to HBO after disappearing from Netflix. Life was whole again. I, like much of America, still hold on to my love for that bunch of 20-somethings who modulated flawlessly into 30-somethings while still looking fabulous and maintaining a lifetime of friendships. I started with episode 1 and just kept going for like the 100th time. I go to the episode when Monica finally was dating a guy named Alan that the whole group liked a little too much for Monica's comfort. They couldn't get enough of him and even hung out with him when Monica was not around. This should have made Monica ecstatic, right? She'd been saying for years, well, as far as we know, because this is only 3 episodes in, right? That she wanted to find someone that her friends liked. Instead, she broke up with him right away, devastating her friends, and then went on to her next series of unhealthy, unhappy relationships. It seemed like she was so intent to take complete ownership of her relationship decision that she was willing to sacrifice potential happiness rather than give her friends credit for perhaps seeing something that she wasn't able to. So, this brings up several questions, right? I mean, do we really want the approval of our friends as much as we say we do? Does that outweigh our own need to make our own decisions? Are we always able to make healthy decisions for ourselves without input? Do we sometimes make a bad decision intentionally just to say that we did it on our own? Do our friends know us better than we know ourselves? Do our emotions rule our decisions? That's probably the key question in all of this. Okay, that's a lot of questions. Let's break this down. All human beings have an innate inclination toward having some kind of control over our lives, right? We like to be in charge of our own decisions, no matter how trivial they may seem. We say that we want our friends' input, but really our natural impulse is to ultimately make the decision of our choice, not their choice, regardless of the consequences, just to say that we did it. It's who we are. Even the most collegial of human beings have a need to have the final say in the topic of choice. So, psychologists, beware, I'm going to get a little scientific here, okay? Psychologists over the world have studied human decision making. There are multiple theories about the decision making process, right? One says that it involves 7 steps. Number 1, identify the decision to be made. Number 2, gather relevant information. Number 3, identify the alternatives. Number 4, weigh the evidence. Number 5, choose among the alternatives. Number 6, take action. And number 7, review your decision. That sounds super detailed and organized and would probably give you the best result, right? So now other theories do not break down decisions into steps. They say that there's only 2 types of decisions: habit decisions and goal-directed decisions. Habit decisions are made on a more impulse-based process. Goal-directed decisions are made on information and logical thinking. But research shows that you can't give a person more than 4 pieces of information to evaluate without actually slowing down the decision-making process or stopping it altogether. Okay, well, that and the 7-step thing just doesn't seem to coincide. But let's keep going. Let's delve into this a little further, right? So we like to think that we're logical in our decisions, that we carefully weigh the alternatives, gather the info, look at our options, like that 7-step one, right? But it's just not possible that we're logical in all of our decisions. Our brain actually makes hundreds of decisions per day without any kind of logical think through that we're conscious of. And here I go bringing up research again, but it shows that the bulk of our decisions are actually unconscious and actually involve emotion over logic. What? Researchers have studied brain activity during decision making. They were actually able to determine what choice the subjects were going to make on the average of 7 to 10 seconds before they even realized that they made a decision or verbalized it. Let's take a look at the emotional component of decision making. So now we're going to get super sciencey. Just hang in there. Now, the somatic marker hypothesis suggests that decision making is a process that depends on emotion. We know that your ventromedial prefrontal cortex, let's just call it the VMPFC of our brain, is key in processing emotional signals that are essential for guiding our decisions to our advantage, right? So the PFC helps regulate fear and stops you from continuing to be afraid in certain situations. It modulates conditioned fear and helps you let go of it and be able to make a decision. So now our amygdala, see, when I think of amygdala, I just think of that scene in Waterboy where the Colonel Sanders guy is asking him what the amygdala is, and he says something about the amygdala is what makes the alligator, mad because he's got so much teeth and no toothbrush. Anyway, sorry, I got off track. But our amygdala is also a key component of processing emotional signals, but its role is a little bit different than the PFC. So the amygdala is where the conditioned fear responses are created and continued. Damage to either one of these areas, though, is going to affect decision making. So there you go. More evidence that decision making depends on emotion to a point. I'm going to take this a step further and add that emotion plays a role in helping others with their decisions. Like, for example, you really can't effectively help someone change their mind about something unless you begin to truly understand how they feel about it in the first place. Otherwise, you can't make any real arguments of influence. It makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, as much as we like to think we're just all logical, maybe not so much, right? So I'm glad I've established that we're not robots and we don't make cold, calculating, emotionless decisions every day. I personally view this as a positive, but I feel like I'm in the minority on this one. So it's interesting to me that the concept of emotionally influenced decision making is still vastly greeted with skepticism and negativity. So I really see this in phrases like, clouded by emotion, right? And the gender discrimination in the workplace that abounds, based in large part by the misconception that women are more inclined to utilize emotionally based decision making more often than men. So therefore, women are looked over sometimes for high powered management decisions if a male candidate is available. This has a negative connotation, implying that the weighing of emotional factors applies a sense of weakness or irrationality somehow. But based on what I told you, this bias doesn't make any sense, right? All humans make decisions based on emotional input, regardless of chromosomes and regardless of whether they're aware of it or not. It's a scientific fact. So, does emotional have to equal irrational? Absolutely not. Emotions are just part of what makes us human. Emotions and decisions are intertwined and not likely to become untangled anytime soon. And that's what makes life interesting and unpredictable. So just go with it and have a fantastic day, everybody.